You know, for the longest time, it was pretty cool living by the airport. And then I started YouTube, and it became the worst thing ever. How should I start this? Alright, what's up guys? Today, we're going to be talking about tires. Little backstory. I've actually had these sitting around since Christmas. I originally wanted to just get these and run them. Then Colt released an even louder tire, so I chose those instead. But I still had these, so they just kind of sat around and been collecting dust, and I figured today I'd bring them out and give them a little review because they seem pretty interesting. So a while back, Mafia Bikes released like an updated version of their aftermarket tire, which is called the Lagos tire, and it came out with like a whole slew of crazy colors. There was like camos, there's splatters, every color under the rainbow imaginable and every combination imaginable. And I was like, hey, some of those look pretty cool. And this is one of them that I was like,
hey, that's pretty good.
I will admit that it was a little bit better looking in the picture. So I know there's a lot of people out there that have a problem with Mafia bikes, either the way they practice business, the way their products work, or just the way that they carry themselves in general. I would go as far as to say that Mafia could be considered the laughingstock of BMX, but I think that's kind of an undeserved title. You know who I think is much better deserving of that title? Collective Bikes. You know why? Every negative thought you can associate with Mafia bikes, you can associate with Collective Bikes as well. On top of the fact that all their stuff is pretty boring and ugly, the owner of the company is probably the biggest douchebag in BMX. And then on top of all that, Collective was made because Ryan Taylor had like a grudge with Mafia. Collective and Mafia are pretty much like the memes of BMX, the meme companies of BMX. It's just a coincidence that they're both from the UK. But anyway, say what you want about Mafia and about Collective. Today is going to be a review. And to do a review, we can't have any bias. I'm going to look at this through a clear lens, and I'm not gonna try and just like already be like, oh, it's Mafia, it's gonna be shit no matter what. I'm gonna give these tires a chance. However, I have some concerns. The way you acquire these tires is from Mafia's website, and then what happens is they sell them in pairs. It's a gray tire with like a blue swirly thing on it. This isn't like Mafia's fault because I've had a different company's tire with like this same concept where it's a base color and then there's like a swirl pattern on it. Most of the time, this swirl pattern doesn't last very long because it's just like, it's almost like paint on top of the tire. Once this like first little layer of tire rubs off, this blue swirl is pretty much gonna go away because it's not molded into the actual tire. It's just kind of like almost like a paint. So there's the first little thing. There's a child crying. So there's that. Think about that. It's not going to look this cool for this long. But then again, what colored tires do look nice after like riding them for 5 seconds? I realize that this tire is kind of targeted towards like people who would be getting their first aftermarket parts. Like let's say you get like a complete, like a Mafia complete, and you want to start adding some like aftermarket parts on it. And let's say you've already gotten a Mafia bike, you might as well try and go for their like aftermarket tires. And that's like the demographic they're going for because they sell them in pairs and it's for a pretty reasonable price. They are an aftermarket tire, but they're probably like the most stock version of an aftermarket tire I've ever seen because right here it says max inflate to 40 PSI. That's already like lower pressure tires are usually lesser quality tires. The reason they can only inflate so much is because they don't have as strong as a casing as other higher quality tires do, and that's how they kind of save money. Now, a lot of people do run pretty low tire pressure, so if you do run low tire pressure, that's not a problem. Then I also saw something else pretty interesting. Right here it says max load 165 pounds. So if you're under 165 pounds, you shouldn't have to worry. But then what else is really interesting is a while ago I messaged Mafia Bikes on Instagram and because I wanted to know how much these weigh because they didn't put the weight on their actual website. He said that one tire weighs 805 grams, which is approximately 28 ounces. Now that is on the heavier side of tires. With tires, the majority of them are going to lie somewhere in between the 22 to like 26 or 27 ounces. Most of them are going to be around 25 ounces. You start going under 25 ounces, it starts to get on the lighter side, and then you go over 25 ounces and the tires start to get on the heavier side. Most riders at some point are going to go through a phase where they want to get their bike as light as possible. And like you can do the thing where you start putting titanium everything and you put a shitload of money into your bike to just save every little ounce of weight you can. And I did that at one point, but I discovered that the best and most cost-effective way to save weight on your bike is through the tires, because the rotational weight is probably the most important like weight factor when it comes to the weight of your bike. Let's say you go to like a middle of the ground tire, like one that weighs 25 ounces, and you go to one and then you switch to a tire that weighs 20 ounces, you're gonna feel that difference immediately. And it's gonna feel, most people will like that feeling because everything feels easier. But then there's also people who might not like it because it might just feel a little too twitchy. But then on the opposite side of the spectrum, let's say you're on a lighter tire like a Maxxis Grifter, and then you switch to something like a Primo V Monster, you're gonna feel how much like heavier your bike is. And that might hinder you, that might make tricks be a little harder, you might have to put a little more effort into it, but also at the same time you also might have a little more leverage and it might feel a little more stable. So really, tire weight is down to preference. Some people are just gonna like heavier tires and some people are just gonna like lighter tires. Most people are gonna lie somewhere in the middle. But for someone who's just getting into BMX and for someone who's like younger, which is what I would assume who would be buying these tires, you'd probably want the tire to be on the lighter side. And I'm thinking that's why they never actually put the weight of the tire on the website, because it's kind of a heavy tire. 28 ounces is on the heavier side. I know it's hard to make a tire that's affordable and lightweight and durable. That's almost impossible. But at the same time, it almost feels like they're trying to almost gyp people by not saying what the weight is. I don't know, maybe their demographic is just lightweight children that are on steroids and are really strong. Or maybe British kids just have incredible strength that I don't know of. And then let's just take a look at the tire a little bit. If you look on the inside, you can see that this casing is a little interesting. It looks a little different than most tires. I don't want to like judge it by the way it looks, but it kind of looks like a lesser quality casing than most. So I don't know. We're just gonna have to throw it on and try it. All right, so I've given my initial opinions. We've looked at the tire. We've discussed some of the specs on it and my concerns. We're still going into this with an open mind. So I'm gonna throw these tires on and then we're gonna go to the skate park and try them out. My God, ow, that hurt. There's like a little like nick in one of my spokes and it just slashed my finger right open. Everyone's got their opinions on Mafia, but I gotta say, that was one of, if not the easiest and fastest tire installations I've ever done. It was so easy to get the tires on and get them inflated. Aside from slashing my finger on my spoke, that was literally the only thing that went wrong, and that has never happened before. And that wasn't even the tire's fault. So far, they look pretty cool, and they were very easy to get on. So far, it's actually a pretty good review. All right, let's go see what they look like. Let's go get some glamour shots of them. Oh, I must say, I don't hate the way this looks. Oh cool, the lights are doing that thing where only half of them turn on. See guys, I told you that stuff would start wearing off. It's already blue's already starting to go away. All right, so far I kind of like them, and then I also kind of don't. They like kind of feel good, but then they also kind of don't. It's weird.
I don't like them.
Mike doesn't like the way they look. I like the way they look. I don't know I don't know about how they feel. They are heavier. That's one thing you should know. It's raining a lot now. I think we're gonna run away from the rain and then we'll continue with this review.
Oh, dude, that was almost like first try. Oh, what, you got 3 out? Well, you almost did.
Oh shit. I think I found the first like problem with these tires. It's like the casing's already like falling off just from trying this line. So that's quirky. All right guys, I went out and got a good, nice first little test run on them. I made sure I did a little bit of everything. I wasn't trying to do any world first or anything mind-blowing. I just wanted to get a good overall impression of how the tires perform. And this is what I gotta say. Pros, I really like the way that they look. I'm digging the whole thing that they're doing. I like how huge the tire is. I like the tread pattern. I like the color scheme that they got going on. I like the huge Lagos hot patch that they got on it. I just love the way the tire looks. I also really like just like how it feels. It feels like a good grippy tire, and it feels nice when you're riding it. It's got a good tread pattern, but it still feels smooth, like it's not all rough and bumpy, and it just felt nice. Unfortunately, that's the only two good things I can say about these tires. You're gonna hear here in a second that the cons far outweigh the pros. And the first con that I noticed was that they only air up to 40 psi. Like, I did air them up more. Like, you can air up tires more than it says that you can. It's not necessarily a smart idea, but you can do it. And I did air these up to 60, but even when I did air it up to 60, it didn't feel like they were at 60. They still felt really squishy, and there were times where if I turned really hard, the tire would compress a little bit. And I don't like my tires to feel like rocks, but I also don't want them to feel like pillows underneath. Like, if they're compressing when I'm doing stuff, I don't like the way that feels. And it's also pretty shitty that they have a weight limit. It's kind of like saying you can't ride these if you're fat. The next big con that I have with these is, of course, the weight. These are a heavier tire. I was riding V-Monsters before this, and that's like a middle of the ground tire, and when I put these on, I could instantly feel how much heavier my bike was. I was able to like muscle it out, but for a lot of people that's going to be a big hindrance, and the car alarm going off. For a lot of people, that's going to be a big hindrance and is going to make a lot of stuff harder. And I really do believe that when you first start off in BMX and you get your first pair of aftermarket tires, I feel like it's going to be really helpful if you get a lighter tire. If I was looking for another set of tires, just the weight alone would take these ones out of the equation. The next big con is just the overall quality of these tires. When I was at the skate park trying stuff, I forgot to do grind tricks. Once I realized that I didn't do any grinds on these tires, I went and rode street and got a couple of grind clips. And within the first couple of grinds, I felt like this little thing kept hitting my leg, and I thought I ran over something and like it got stuck on the tire, but it was actually this little bead of the tire. Part of it had fallen off and was hitting my leg, and like once I grabbed it, it just instantly fell off. And then you can just see right here, this is grind damage. It's not like scuffs or wax marks. This is like the first layer of tire that's under the gray. I didn't even like grind like a total of 20 times, and these tires are already falling apart. That's ridiculous. And then just like the inside casing, you saw how like weird and janky it looked, and it only airs up to 40. They're heavy. I really did have high hopes for these tires, but this is just like, this is not a good quality tire. You can get so much more of a tire for less, which brings me to the last con, is the price. They sell these in pairs for 60 bucks, and at first that would almost look like a deal. It's like, oh, it's a bundle pack and you save a little bit of money. If it's 60 for both, that means one of these would be about $30. For 30 bucks, for even 25 bucks, you can get a tire that's lighter, that's more durable, and that's just overall, quality-wise, is just miles ahead of these. Looks-wise, I give it like a 9.5. I love the way they look. Performance-wise, I give it like a 0.5. There is so much better out there. Worst tire ever? I don't know. That's a solid maybe. I don't know if there's a worse tire out there. If it is, it's probably made by Collective. I'm sure there's like stock tires that are better than this that come on completes, and they advertise these as an aftermarket tire. An aftermarket tire that only airs up to 40, that's made of lead, and is going to fall apart on the first 5 grinds that you do. If I'm getting that advertised to me, I don't think I'm going to buy it. Unfortunately, these tires sucked. I guess that's going to wrap up this review. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you made it this far, I really do appreciate it. I would also really appreciate it if you leave a like. If you enjoyed this video, leave a comment, give me your thoughts and opinions. If you've had experience with these tires, definitely leave a comment and let me know what your experiences were with them. Share the video around to spread the knowledge. Subscribe for more if you haven't already and you enjoy the content that I put out. Yeah, just make sure you hit the bell notification, do all that other shit. Once again, thank you guys so much for watching. I'll see you guys next time.